The CloudLab 844 may be the nicest tent that I have ever set up. Welcome to the Hippie Geeks. Let's get this AC Infinity 4' by 4' tent unboxed and set up for an upcoming grow. It is finally time to set up my first AC Infinity grow tent, and I cannot believe that it has taken me this long to try one out. As always, when opening a grow tent, be very careful to not cut deeply into the box. AC Infinity and most other companies now are putting a protective piece of cardboard here so that it is harder to actually cut the tent fabric, but with a sharp enough knife or too much pressure, you could still do it. Right under the cardboard is all of the documentation and accessories that come with the tent, including the setup booklet and some promotional materials, and some cool little stickers that I will have to find a place for. There is also the controller mounting plate and its related hardware, and I will definitely want to take a look at that later. The next thing to pull out of the box is the fabric of the tent itself, and I am just going to set this aside for later. Under that are the 8 corner pieces that you will need for the framework, followed by the bag of roof supports that this tent comes with. There are actually 4 supports as opposed to the 2 that I have gotten in previous tents, which is nice, and they are super beefy and appear to be made from 1-inch steel tube, which is amazing. Once I have the tent set up, I'm actually going to test how strong they are and see if the framework can hold up to my 240 pounds doing a pull-up inside of the tent. There are also the 4 packages of the tent connector poles, and these also appear to be made from 1-inch steel tube, which is super awesome. They are all packaged super well, with each tube held in place with plastic separators and then shrink wrapped for transport, which means that everything should arrive undamaged. It will take a couple of minutes to get everything out of their respective packaging, but in the end, you will have all of the pieces you need ready to assemble this thing. The first thing you need to do is grab 4 of the corner pieces, along with 4 of the bars marked with the letter A. When placing the corner pieces, make sure that the plastic protector is facing down, as this will keep the tent fabric from getting damaged. Once you have the bottom section of the framework put together, it is time to insert the vertical pieces, which all actually have height markings on them, which is a really nice touch. Make sure that the number 1 is towards the bottom of the tent, and the numbers on the first bar will then go up to 3, with the second section having the numbers 4 through 6 on them. This is just a really nice way to quickly get a rough idea of how tall your plants are without having to break out a tape measure. After that, it is time to assemble the top framework, and I am going to start by attaching the corner brackets first, this time with the plastic protectors facing to the top of the tent. After that, it is time to insert the last 4 bars that are marked with the letter A, and that will complete the framework setup. Now that the framework is finished, it is time to grab the package that has the tent fabric that we set aside earlier and get it opened up. After that, you need to find the main zipper pulls, which are located in about the middle of the zipper, and unzip the entire tent fabric to each of their ends so that the entire thing is opened up all the way so that we can install it on the framework. The install for me is going to be a little tricky, as there is only about 1 inch of space above the framework for me to get this fabric installed. That means that I cannot lift the framework into the tent fabric and just have to pull the bottom section carefully under the framework and get it into place, which is a bit of a pain, but it is doable. Once the bottom is securely stretched around the entire bottom of the framework, it is time to pull the top flap up and over the framework and get it into place. With the lack of space above my framework, this was also not the easiest thing to do, but I just took it slow and carefully pulled it into place, making sure that the fabric for the sides of the tent was not hung up on anything, as I really do not want to rip this thing. Once the top is in place, it is then time to just pull the walls around the other 3 sides of the tent, and if you have both the top and bottom flaps placed correctly, this should be the easy part of the process. You just keep pulling the sides around the tent framework like a shiny blanket. As you make your way around, go ahead and zip up the top of the tent as well, as this will hold it all in place so that you can then do the same thing with the lower zipper. What you should be aiming for is to end up with both of the zippers in the middle of the main door, as this is what will allow you to close or open the main door of the tent so that you can get in and out of it easily. Next up, I am going to get the controller plate installed where it goes. Even though I do not yet have a controller to go along with it, it has several hooks on the back that will slip into the fabric that you can see there in the corner, and you can also see that there is a built-in cable pass-through for all of the wiring that you can plug into whatever controller your system of choice comes with. We will definitely be looking at this more in the future, but for now we can just look at the rest of the features of the tent. Looking at the bottom of the tent, there are the 3 screened rectangular ports that you can roll up from the outside of the tent to let air in or out. There is also an 8-inch duct port on each of the sides of the tent, along with a 4-inch port in the back for passing power cables through. In the middle section of the tent, you can see that there are 2 more 4-inch ports, one on the right side near the front of the tent, and one in the center of the back wall. Finally, in the top section of the tent, you can see 3 of the 8-inch ports, one each on the left and right walls, with another one in the top of the tent in the back right. There is also the final 4-inch port in the center of the back for more wires to pass through. It is now time to get those top supports put in, and the camera is going to have a really hard time focusing here, so you will need to bear with me. This is an amazing amount of support to have, and if you are the kind of person that likes to store extra gear on top of your tent, this is going to be able to support it up there really well. This is also going to give you a lot of options when it comes to hanging equipment inside of the tent, so this should be able to do whatever you need it to do and place them where it works best for your setup. What I am going to do in this tent is space them evenly about 16 inches apart and then tape the ends in place. This will just keep them from shifting around, especially once I start getting gear in here. The light that I am using is going to fill this space up, so I want to make sure to get the tent itself fully set up and secured first. Now that it is all in, I am just super impressed with how stout this thing is, and decided to see if it would actually hold my entire weight if I did a couple of pull-ups in the center. I obviously couldn't pull my head up all the way, but my entire body weight was fully suspended here, and that is just insane. I am not exactly a light person at 240 pounds, but the framework totally held me. That means that no matter what I put in here, I am not going to have to worry about it, and that is pretty awesome to see. There is one final thing to install, and that is the bottom tray. This is different than any bottom tent tray that I have ever used as well, and instead of the same shiny tent material that is sewed into a kind of tray that is never really waterproof, this appears to be a white vinyl material that is all one piece, and as such should actually be waterproof if you ever have an accidental spill. It hooks into the tent at all 4 corners and is just another example of the care that was taken in the design and implementation of this grow tent. It really is well built at every step of the process. Setting up the AC Infinity CloudLab 844 was a completely pain-free process, and I do just want to go over the highlights that I really liked about setting this tent up. First, I love that they are using 1-inch steel tube for the frame, the corners, and the ceiling supports. It is just sturdy and heavy duty, and I love seeing it. Next up is the controller plate and wire pass-through that they have in the front here. This is amazing and means that I won't need to cut a hole in the tent here to pass cables though, and won't have to do something wonky to mount the controller as it will connect directly to this plate. Finally, all of the ports that this tent has. Between the 5 different 8-inch ports and the 4 different 4-inch ports, I can set this thing up with any of the various pieces of gear that I want, and will have no issues with passing ducts or wires through where I need to as well. A big thank you to AC Infinity for supporting the channel, and if you want to check out the CloudLab 844 or any of their other gear for yourself, make sure to click on the link to their website in the description or pinned comment down below, and use the discount code GEEKS at checkout to receive 15% off your entire order.